Night. It doesn't get much lower than this. This week, Andrew Cuomo and Lori Lightfoot, a left-wing governor and mayor who hold power over two of the country's biggest economic engines, Chicago and New York, completely flipped their script and announced reopening needs to happen immediately in this country. Cuomo led the charge earlier this week. Take a listen.
We simply cannot stay closed. We will have nothing left to open. We must reopen the economy, but we must do it smartly and safely.
And then Lori Lightfoot followed suit just yesterday.
I feel very strongly that we are very close to a point where we should be talking about opening up our bars and restaurants.
Oh, no kidding, Lori. Well, there's an update. The state of Washington began the reopening process this week as well, and it is just incredible how shameless politicians can be. It is amazing that they don't think people see clear as day what is happening here. COVID-19 right now is exploding in this country. Here is Joe Biden today.
Things will get worse before they get better. I told you I'll always level with you.
The problem is, COVID restrictions are no longer useful. In fact, they are now a deterrent because Democrats are about to have total control of government, which means all the lockdown measures must end. The lockdowns have served their purpose. They have destroyed countless businesses and livelihoods of millions of people, but for a good cause. It was all in the name of ending the Trump presidency. Mission accomplished. Thank you, Americans, for suffering through this hell so Democrats could kick Trump out of Washington. Your $1,400 payments as the checks will come in the mail here pretty soon, of course. And let me make this clear. These people have known for months that they were going to do this. They stalled, of course, to keep Trump's economy shuttered and will now reopen in conjunction with Joe Biden's inauguration. It's as simple as that. It'll start with restaurants and bars, as Lori Lightfoot said. It'll expand to less people working from home. It'll happen pretty fast. New York and Chicago, again, two of the biggest engines in the country, are about to reopen and full steam ahead for the Biden economy to take off like a rocket ship. Think about how many politicians we listen to scream and holler and cry about President Trump and governors like Florida's Ron DeSantis not caring if people die, literally killing people with their policies. The media helped, of course, a lot. Every day we had to hear this kind of garbage.
Ignoring a pandemic does not make it go away. That's why states like Florida are in such dire straits. He made Trump happy, Governor DeSantis did, and now more Floridians than they can count accurately appear to be sick.
There's nobody who has been more wrong about this than President Donald Trump. Many of those deaths, Mr. President, are on you and your terrible response to this virus.
It was all politics, every bit of it. Wait until next week. These two, both of them, will be harping on the need to save small businesses. They'll say, we can't stay locked down forever. It's about personal responsibility. They're going to sound exactly like Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis 6 months ago. They will. It's all just a game. This is how ugly the game is. And we, the people, the Americans, are all just pawns in this game. Here is the New York curve for COVID-19. Clear as day. It was really bad last spring. Then it eased up dramatically over the summer. And then this fall and winter, it exploded. You can see right here, you can see this is us right now towards the end, spiking higher and higher. There we go. Right there. There's January 14th. We're shooting up this way. And yet Cuomo says now is the time to reopen the economy. Right now. 3,973 people died yesterday of COVID-19. Now we need to reopen the economy. By the way, Biden goes in 5 days. Follow the science, they told us. They screamed that in our faces. Follow the science. You idiots, follow the science. They were so mad. When COVID was way down last summer, did they open up? Nah. They still had an election to win. To hell with the business you spent decades building. But now, as we're seeing this massive surge in the virus, a lot of people dying, the hospitals are filling up. It's really, really bad. Now they want to talk about reopening. You know, they got Biden coming in. And think about this. What would have happened if Trump had won this last election? Would we just be locked down until herd immunity? Until next year? If the Democrat Party leaders weren't pressing blue cities and states right now for a stronger economy, would anything be changing for us? Of course not. The liberal media has its marching orders. Check out this headline from Newsweek. This will make you laugh. COVID lockdowns have no clear benefit versus other voluntary measures, international study says. I mean, it's just hysterical. A study like this was right-wing propaganda 6 months ago. Now it's in Newsweek. They ruined the Trump economy. They got their mail-in ballots. The game is won. What an amazing scam it all was for them. What a gift COVID has been for the left. And let me just reemphasize, COVID's a real thing. I had COVID. A lot of my friends have had it. A lot of people I know got really sick with COVID. It's a real thing. But the scam is how the Democrats have played this whole thing out. All the reopening that will take place over the next few weeks could and should have happened back in June. After a couple months of lockdowns and studying this thing, we understood the virus. We knew who was vulnerable. We knew we needed to hide the weak, hide the old people, everything like that, keep them safe. We knew how to wear masks and wash hands and keep some personal space. We knew all of these things. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed except the President of the United States. All right, of course, the lockdowns did more harm than good. We all know that. Our next guest, Dr. Richard McCormick, is an ER physician. Dr. McCormick, thanks for coming on. We do appreciate it. What do you make of all of a sudden this wave of liberal support for reopening right in conjunction with Biden going into the White House?
It doesn't surprise me at all. We witnessed this over generations of politics and media. This is more of the same. We've been warning exactly what we've said all along is now true all of a sudden now that we have a Democratic president. We haven't changed what side we're rooting for, and we're always for the people, but they're playing politics.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that you can see in the science. I mean, I just looked at the numbers. 3,973 people died yesterday. Nothing in the science would lead to this, right? I mean, there's no way if you put Cuomo on the spot right now and said, why does it need to reopen now? Why now? He wouldn't have an answer, would he?
That's right. Science hasn't changed. As a matter of fact, we're more full in the hospitals than we were during the last peak. So this is based on politics alone.
Yeah, absolutely. New York admitted a couple months ago that an incredibly small 1.4% of cases were coming from restaurants, 1.4%. Yet Cuomo still waited, still closed down a lot more restaurants. Is there any possible logical reason that he would be able to give for that choice?
Logical, yeah. The fact that they wanted to win a presidency and play politics. The medicine hasn't changed behind this. Now, we've changed a lot of opinions on how we treat this disease. Yeah. Even how contagious it is. But really, opening up the economy, we've seen the evidence behind that and what it does and doesn't do to the spread of this virus. We've known all along. The war went away, even though we had peaks in deaths at that time. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, this I would think that this has got to be like the worst time. I mean, I think for anybody to advise it right now, this is the big spike. This is about as bad as it's been throughout the entire course. It's just incredible to me to see. And they think that they're going to get away with this is what's so funny. You were one of the voices that said that these lockdowns should have ended back in spring, early on. Tell us why.
What we noticed in the economies that have opened up, and really there's no better example of what you do. And the nice thing about having a federal government that allows states to act independently is you get to watch what works and what doesn't work. And then people can experiment and try to use evidence-based medicine to make their calculations, which may be wrong or right. But those economies that opened up did well. And it didn't have a huge spike at those times. And we're able to get, like Georgia and Florida did very well economically. Our spread of the disease didn't happen any worse than other states, really. Right. And now we're seeing the fruition of this is other states are going to start copying us now that they have a different president.
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked about it before, but in Los Angeles, you had a situation where it seemed pretty clear. They closed everything down in Southern California, and people just started, okay, we can't go out. We're not going to lock ourselves in our room for a year. So they started having people over to the house. And now Lightfoot says, you know what, this is the problem. That Lightfoot's trying to play it off like, oh, now we're realizing people are having house parties. Like it took you 9 months to realize that people were going to gather at home if they can't go to restaurants. But this is kind of the excuse now for reopening.
The good news is it's not going to save them. It's the same old politics. New York and California have contracting economies. Yeah. They have contracting populations. And that happened well before COVID was ever a thing because they have failed governmental policies. And that's one thing we have to pay attention. What is working? lower taxes, opening businesses, letting people make their own decisions. That's as American as apple pie. That's what's made us successful over generations, and changing that to something that wasn't is purely politics. And hopefully the American people are paying attention, because we have another election coming up real quick.
I know, you're right. We got the midterms, and I'm nervous about that too. Coming up, it will happen fast, unbelievably. The lockdowns that you've talked about have harmed a lot of people medically, putting off elective treatments because, you didn't want to go to the doctors, or not allowed to do elective treatments in some cases. And also, I think the psychology, the depression of it, how much harm do you think that did?
No, tremendous. I've seen a big spike in psychological disease, overdoses, depression, anxiety. Tons of people are coming to the ER. I just got 4 shifts in a row, and the amount of people who are overdosing and doing bad things, even the abuse inside of households, you can make a case for just the stress in general. There's a great depression out there. The younger generations coming up, and how they view school and how they're learning, and how they're not being able to get teachers help because teachers won't meet with them. They're using that as an excuse. This has not been a good thing for our society, and it definitely drags on the idea of American patriotism and being able to do what we want to do as Americans and make the choices, the educated choices that we make, the chances that we take to be Americans and not just be under control of a government. Yeah.
But between COVID lockdowns and what's happening with big tech right now, it is just a tremendous power grab from government, and the freedoms are just disappearing so fast. It's just unbelievable. I don't feel like I live even in the same country sometimes. Let's talk about the vaccination plan here. Joe Biden put out some details. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Our goal of 100 million shots by the end of our first 100 days in office. Some wonder if we're reaching too far for that goal. Is it achievable? It's a legitimate question to ask. Let me be clear. I'm convinced we can get it done.
It's an aggressive plan. Obviously, they're trying to be their own version of warp speed. What do you think?
I think, thank you, President Trump. This wouldn't be possible without his leadership, without him being able to enable people to do things they've never done in the history of mankind. We've never had a vaccination in less than a year. Matter of fact, this is about 4 times faster than the next closest vaccination we ever come up with and widely distributed. This is something that we really should be thankful for. And this is allowing the private industry to take the shackles off that regulation and government has always held us back with. And you can see what happens when we let the American people accomplish what they're made for.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Are you concerned at all about vaccine supplies at this point?
I'm more worried about the distribution. I think this is something so new as far as technologies. I think it's very saw what Cuomo did, and they threw away vaccinations because of regulation. Once again, unintended consequences of government. Can you believe it? Yeah. Imagine that.
I mean, it's the craziest thing in the world. He complains about not getting enough vaccines, and he's been throwing them away to avoid giving them to the wrong people. What a story that was. Dr. Richard McCormick, good to talk with you. Thank you so much.